Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and good evening for some of you. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this crucial conversation on securing our water future, how to finance and innovate for impact. I'm Gaëlle Guillou, Strategic Advisor at Water Unite, a global non-profit organization dedicated to funding clean water initiatives that benefit both for people and the planet. I also serve as an ambassador for the working group on water, nature, and biodiversity at TTI, Top Tier Impact, Europe and France. I'm honored to be your host today. It's fantastic to see such interest in today's session with over 100 registrants representing development finance institutions, family offices, funds, global corporates, and NGOs today. At Water Unite, we are committed to tackling the water crisis head-on by working at the intersection of finance, impact, and innovation, bridging the gap between capital and scalable solutions for water security, sanitation, and plastic waste reduction. Through our innovative blended finance model, we unlock and amplified funding for entrepreneurs and initiatives that create real and measurable impact. To date, we have supported programs in 17 countries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, improving the lives of over 1 million people. But we must do more. That's why today's discussions is very important, because together we can accelerate solution and drive lasting change. Your presence here, spanning 4 continents, demonstrates the urgency and the global importance of this issue, this water issue. It's inspiring for me and for all the people here to see so many leaders, innovators and investors and change makers gathered together today. Alors, what I want to say is that securing our water future is not just a challenge, it's an urgent necessity. Water is the foundation of life, economies, and ecosystem. It's the silent force behind everything we do, from growing food to powering industries. It is not just a resource, it's a necessity for survival. Without it, without water, life simply cannot exist. And just for a reminder, humans can survive only 7 days without water. So by 2050, half of the world's population will reside in regions facing water scarcity, putting millions at risk. How oceans are suffocating under 51 trillion microplastic particles, a disaster that continues to worsen. And millions of people still lack access to clean, safe water, which is not just a resource, but a fundamental human right. This crisis is unfolding right before us, and it demands immediate and unified action. That's why we are here today, to explore real solutions, innovative financing model, and transformative technologies that can make a lasting difference. So the good news, there is hope. Solution already exists, and together we can invest, collaborate, and innovate to secure water future for the future generations. So this webinar is about action, collaboration, and scaling solutions that work. We have an incredible lineup of speakers who will share their expertise on partnership, financing mechanism, and groundbreaking innovations shaping the future of water security. So let's dive in and explore how we can secure our water future together. So I'm honored to introduce today Mr. Satya Tripathi, a global leader in sustainability, impact finance, and environmental governance. As the Secretary General of the Global Alliance for a Sustainable Planet and Trustee at Water Unite, he has played a pivotal role in pioneering finance models for sustainability. And with over 40 years of experience, including as a former United Nations Assistant Secretary General, Satya has spearheaded initiatives that blend policy, investment, and action to achieve systemic change. Then we will hear Cyrille Antignac. Cyrille is an investment partner at Wellers Impact and the portfolio managers of Water Unite Impact Fund. Cyrille has 20 years of experience in corporate finance and private equity across Asia, Africa, and Europe. And we will finish with Amira Cheniur, the co-founder and chief operating officer of CBEX, a groundbreaking agri-tech company that uses artificial intelligence irrigation technology to optimize water use in agriculture. CBEX groundbreaking is recognized. Their work has been globally recognized, including being named among the top 10 water entrepreneurs worldwide, saving water at the World Economic Forum at Davos. So this is great to hear Amira also. Before we begin, a bit of housekeeping. Throughout the webinar, feel free to submit your questions via the chat. We encourage engagement and collaboration because solving the water crisis requires all of us working together. We will have 15 minutes at the end of the session to address as many questions as we can. If we don't get to your questions, we will make sure to reply over email. All registrants will receive a recording after the event. If you have colleagues who were unable to attend, let them know that if they sign up via the original link, they will receive the recording as well. And lastly, a feedback form will be circulated at the end of the webinar. We're always looking to improve our events here at Top Tier Impact. So any comments or suggestions will be greatly appreciated. So to address water security,
Yael, a quick word of intro before I pass it to Satya.
Okay.
So a very quick intro. So welcome to everyone. Just wanted to give you an update on TTI and TTI Europe before we start. Again, for those who just joined, I'm Pierre Laurenceau. I'm both the head of Top Tier Impact Europe and Top Tier Impact France, which I built, and also co-organizer of this webinar. The other hat I have is to be a VC in the climate space, climate tech space, including water, obviously, but also other topics related to nature and climate. Obviously, nature and water are intertwined, but also biodiversity and water are intertwined, as well as any human topic, as you have, Gail, mentioned. Water surrounds us, sustains us, and yes, we're increasingly, obviously, to the reality of this vital, scarce, precious resource. We cannot live without it. How can we help? How can TTI help? TTI is now 1,000 leaders across 50 countries, and we share this responsibility to carry together our share of the burden of water scarcity, or in some case, water overflow. But we also share opportunities. TTI is very supportive of a community of investors, entrepreneurs, startup and scale up, as well as public officials, which we're gaining more and more traction with public officials. So we offer you this TTI global community for those of us joining for the first time, as members and new members or as potential members. And so I just want to welcome the new members or the would-be members to let you know that we provide this vibrant community of 50 countries with an engaged set of WhatsApp topics with direct access to world leaders in environmental action. And just this semester, we held more than 7 events, or we are about to hold 7 more events tailored to maximize your impact. So we're not a community that's, analyze. We do, we act, and we help you act. We organize this event as a way for you to connect, to leverage one another, each other networks through, as I mentioned earlier, Change Now, Vivatech, and other events such as our annual Green Summer Party. So stay tuned. And on that note, I'm happy to pass it and to pass the virtual mic to Satya, who will expand on this exciting event today. Satya, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you, Gail, for the kind introduction. Um, Greetings, everyone. I think we are discussing one of the most consequential matters for humanity, and I can't emphasize that any more strongly. Um, Talking about partnerships, I don't think people really understand how connected we are through water, both on the surface and underwater, under the surface as well. On the surface, 154 countries share water bodies across the planet. Out of 193 member nations of the United Nations, 154 share water bodies. Below the surface, 64% of the countries actually share their aquifers with neighboring countries. So we are connected deeply, both above the surface and under, whether we accept and appreciate that partnership. Nature has built that partnership for us. But nature also has presented its challenges in a significant way. To give you an example, the country where I come from, although I have lived not much there in the recent decades, but but I have always, marveled at nature's injustice in a way that a country that has 18% of the world's population, India, has only 4% of the freshwater resources. And when you don't manage that effectively enough or well enough, it is a big challenge. Of course, there are countries, around the world that are water surplus because they have kept their forests or they were gifted with the forests, and like countries like Guyana, countries like Liberia on the west coast of Africa, countries like Indonesia, and there are countries that have really managed to keep their rainforest. Brazil as well, although it's not been able to manage its forest as well as either Guyana or Indonesia, but then they have also tried very hard during President Lula's earlier term, and now again they're trying to bring back the biodiversity and prevent the forest loss that was happening in the previous government. So we have a mixed bag of these challenges across the planet, and how do we build partnerships that can really help? And sometimes the fact of or the essence of the matter is missing in conversations. We very happily consume food understanding very little about their water footprint. If you take rice, that is very commonly understood, and almost all of us have consumed rice either regularly or at some point of time in our lives. 1 acre of rice cultivation on an average globally is about 565,000 liters of water. That's how much water you need to grow rice in a season in one crop cycle. That's how much water is needed. Now, is it required to spend that much water? Absolutely not. There are all kinds of technologies now that can actually reduce that. If you are doing regenerative agriculture, water use intensity drops by about 50%. There's a program that we have been supporting for the last 7-8 years, which is now the world's largest clean agriculture program. 1.2 million women farmers in that program have switched from synthetic chemical farming to zero chemical farming. And in doing so, the water use intensity has dropped by 50% in rice for sure, but then other crops, it varies anywhere between 30 to 70%. Now, if there was a way, and that market is just building up, but if there was a way, where you could monetize these conservation efforts, even at a very conservative level, even if you counted 100,000 liter of water savings per acre in a rice field, let alone 200,000 or 250,000, which is the case in this particular program as I'm talking about. And now water credits are selling at about $1, little more than that. And a water credit is actually 1 cubic meter of water, which is 1,000 liters of water. So if you could monetize and bring it to market, and then those that are drawing water from the very, very rare reserves that nature has provided humanity, and not just humanity, all other 8 million species to use. Um, so that would go a long way, those that are drawing water, whether it's the Pepsis and the Coca-Colas, or the major food companies like Nestle and Danone and Cargill and what have you. So how do we build a buyers coalition? That's a partnership that could be really consequential, both through the work of Water Unite, because Water Unite has been at the forefront of a lot of innovative models in different continents. And it could very well be the benevolent intermediary to straddle that space and be the bridge between those that need to be recognized and acknowledged for the good work they're doing in conservation and storage of water. There's another program I would like to highlight that we have been a part of. They're a member of the Global Alliance. It's on the west coast of India. They have stored in the last 5 years 4 billion liters of water, purely through private efforts, community efforts, doing the right thing, embankments, putting big shafts in riverbeds so that during the rainy season the water goes down, and they have brought up groundwater from 300 feet under to now 40 feet below the ground, just within 5 years. So people that are putting these kind of efforts, if they can be helped, and I think Water Unit does and can play an even more significant role in that. The other thing that can play a very significant role is blended finance, and Cyrille is of course going to talk about it. But I just wanted to give a big shout out to the German Development Bank, KfW, who have put in 210 million euros into this particular natural farming program that I mentioned on the east coast of India at 0.45% coupon. Which is extraordinary. It's 10-year money. And then, of course, initially they were not interested because they thought, okay, agriculture is risky and we don't. And the moment they saw the whole of system paradigm shift, instead of looking at it as just agriculture, that these are women farmers, that when they make more money, their families, their children get better nutrition, they go to school, they get better public health. It's a cascading effect of a lot of good. Then they came forward and say, you know what, we want to be a part of this. And not only that, they put forward money at 0.45% coupon, which is unthinkable right now. Nobody is, even sovereign wealth funds are not going to put up money like that. So, I think the three lessons I would close my statement with is that it is important to build these virtuous partnerships, bringing diverse group of stakeholders together so that whatever risk an investor might see or perceive melts away, because you have everybody in the tent, from the government to the beneficiary at the bottom of the pyramid. That's the first part. The second is that as you do that, you need to keep working and producing the proof points and the evidence in partnership with research institutions, third-party audits, and impartial investigators, and investigators as in research scholars and others that you can bring in, and then they can all add to the gravitas of the value proposition that you're presenting. And the third is to create these coalitions at all levels, the farmers coalitions, the intermediaries, the aggregators, the investors, and the buyers coalition, so that you harness the power of every possibility there is to monetize, because there is no better way to acknowledge and appreciate the good work of good and hard work of people at the bottom of the pyramid than to get them paid for their hard work in the right way and in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Satya. It's very interesting the way you explain us finally that the impossible became possible thanks to the multi-stake partnership approach. So thanks for that. Now, maybe I will introduce the next speaker, so Cyrille. We look forward to learning how finance can unlock a transformative solution for water. You are a specialist of that, and you're just the investment partner at Wellers Impact and also the portfolio manager of the Water Unite Impact. So,
okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Gail. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, TTI, for having us today. I'd like to spend the next, perhaps the next, 20 minutes or so to discuss Water Unite Impact. That's an investment vehicle that we have built to answer those issues around water, water scarcity, other problems around water. And this will be done in 3 parts, which you can see on the next page. The 3 parts, first we talk about a little bit about Water Unite, why we're here, our raison d'etre, what we're trying to do. 2, I want to talk about the blended finance model that we have built. And finally, we'll open the lens to discuss about, investing in a water gap, and discuss a number of innovations that we see around, because our deal flow has been over the last 3 years where we have been active, or 3 or 4 years, in excess of 270, water innovators. So it's quite interesting to see, what's going on in the marketplace, and it's indicative of a shift. So we'll end up with that. So to begin with, maybe with a little bit on Water Unite, why this investment vehicle is interesting, if not unique. It is a blended finance vehicle. It was put together by a charity called Water Unite, based in the UK. It's a non-profit organization that decided to channel private funds from donors, particularly corporate donors. That's the audience by and large, to invest into innovators rather than just support grassroots organizations. So they decided to set up a fund called Water Unite Impact, that does something like 90% of the funds collected in the form of investing into innovative companies, early stage in a global south. The purpose is to channel corporate donations to impact investing. So basically a shift from philanthropy to active philanthropy to investing. And our 2 rationale, the first one is investing in companies is more efficient than using just grants, and also the fact that second, that impact enterprises are more powerful to solve problems at the grassroots level. And this is built together for a purpose. I think you have an animation coming next, where the expected outcome is an impact multiple, as we call it, which is the compounded effect of having the same dollar rotating several times over, which is, donors' money going into, enterprises that can repay the money, and the same money gets reinvested again. And the fact that they go into high growth enterprises with intentionality to grow their impacts alongside their commercial scale, and hence producing more impact. So the compounded effect of A and B together produce a demultiplication of the number of impacts invested. So that's pretty much what we're looking to do, is to leverage, a large amount of impact with, the first dollar, or i.e., the first investment money tipping more private investors coming on side as well, which is the blended finance model I'm going to talk about. So on the next page, why I think, working with corporations is, for me, particularly attractive. And that's why I was drawn to the model in the first place. Corporations are the ultimate patient investor. We're talking about, patient capital in the realm of impact investing, but actually corporations have a longer lens. They are able to invest long term, and with resilient expectations as far as returns are concerned, and certainly more than, institutional investors. 2, they are problem solvers. They need to solve problems around water scarcity. The use of water in the industry is massive, and this is perhaps the last unregulated territory in a sense that we don't measure our water footprint today. It is something that we expect is going to change massively in the next decade or 2 decades, because we will have the means to do that, and with the means to do that come together with, comes the ability to change the way you do manage water as a rare resource. So it's important. Water is key. There's water intensity, more or less, but massively into energy, food, electronics, the rise of AI and internet, and together with AI is actually increasing the pressure massively. So water efficiency is needed, and by and large, water footprint is off the map in the corporate dashboards. So that's the reason why they're interested, and they are looking for more solutions. Next page. Well, actually, what problems are they trying to solve? Yes, obviously, we know that there is a very large gap in water and sanitation, to the tune of 1 billion plus. There's also insufficient coverage in terms of infrastructure, but also, of course, water stress, which is coming high on the agenda everywhere of governments and corporations. So those are the key problems everybody's facing, and that chiefly corporates are responsible to manage properly. So the outcome of all these pressure points will be responded by innovation, and we expect there's going to be a huge wave in innovation in water. It goes way beyond wash. We expect, and this is figures by the World Resource Institute, a demultiplication of investment in the next decade by 2034, an increase by the factor of 3,000x. So we'll discuss that later, but already we have good exposure to that. We are through the investments that we are making. So far we have a portfolio of 6 investments. That's going to be 12 in the next 12 to 18 months. And the sort of innovations we see, it's everything we know already, boosted by AI, enabling a large productivity gap to be closed. The rise of mini infrastructure, going into the gaps where large infrastructure are actually fading. The rise of circularity everywhere, not just in water, but water particularly. With that, circularity in waste management, with waste to energy, and a lot of water preservation potential that is so far really untapped. So I want to talk about the blended finance model next and introduce the inner working of Water Unite Impact as an investment vehicle. So what you can see on this picture is that Water Unite Impact, which is the bar in the middle, is actually fed by Water Unite, which is what we call the non-profit fund here, which is in fact contributed by corporate donors by and large. And so those are corporations interested in reducing their water footprint, and that's the reason why they come with us. And then the second instance, we have private investors coming in as well. These private investors are largely de-risked by the fact that we have a large amount of blended finance money together, and that helps producing a first loss tranche, as well as other blended finance interesting impacts that I will detail in the next page. All that money is channeled to it's called SMEs here, but actually it's channeled to startup companies, and the effect is to accelerate companies where it's needed to have additionality finance. So the blended finance model itself has 3 pillars. One is basically the first loss guarantee, which is nothing else but, in fact, sum of money left aside for indemnification of capital losses if they occur. The reason we have that is, and this is a difference with a classic private equity fund, is that donors choose to give money across the years, and that exceeds the investment period. So we still receive money after the deployment period, which enables us to provide that, which is an interesting feature, perhaps very, very different. Second is there's a first layer of equity financing that goes into financing, the early stage part of the investment portfolio, which by nature is early stage because these innovations only start to emerge. So if you look at the pool of investable opportunities, it's largely early, okay, in the development curve. So we can invest and mobilize capital here below the hurdle rate, which helps other LPs joining in later, in fact, de-risk their own investment. And the third pillar is providing technical assistance to companies. And it is also a de-risking mechanism in a sense, because we provide support and assistance to companies until they reach a break-even, or even beyond break-even, in the case companies are actually past break-even when we invest. And that's terribly important, and it can make a massive difference if it's well applied to businesses at that stage of development, okay, between failure and success, or between success and more success. So those are the three pillars we use to define our blended finance model. Next page. I want to show you the stages in which we have actually mobilized capital. And in fact, it shows that, you know, having a blended finance core at the center of the fund is helpful to mobilize further capital. So the first layer is actually provided by Water Unite itself and private investors along with Water Unite. So you can click on the first animation that actually shows who they are. So we have Water Unite. In fact, we're lucky to have the One Foundation. That's a fairly well-known and respected non-profit organization in the UK that has like 15 years of experience at the grassroots level in Africa, and they decided to promote the model doing impact investing as a next stage. The second layer is a group of corporates. So we call that a group of sustainability leaders or water sustainability leaders, because they are preoccupied by the issues and want to respond actively through innovation. So we have two core donors who are historic in this development. First is the Co-op, which is the largest cooperative of retailers or retailing cooperative in the UK, which is a major brand of and chain of supermarkets across the country. And then we have Elior, which is a large European listed on a Eurostock catering organization. And together behind them, we have a number of brands in the food and drink industry associated to them. And they all provide funds through what we call micro-levy programs. So what's a micro-levy? Is you buy a bottle of water at the supermarket, there will be 1 penny put aside to go into the fund. So in fact, this fund is actually contributed by a large number of consumers. And there's a direct relationship between what we do and as a value proposition to these people, expecting and having basically a contribution to the well-being of the planet through their consuming act. And first and last but not least is actually the private investors who we have been able to mobilize. So with the Development Finance Corporation of the US, that's committed $7.5 million. And around that, we have others. One development institution specialized in water. He's also on board with us with a second first loss guarantee mechanism to be put in place. And other private investors include family offices, private foundations, and corporates. At this stage, the fund has about 20 million commitments, looking to grow to 30 million in 2025, with a program to grow ultimately to 60 million, and perhaps do a second vehicle after that. We have a large interest by a good number of organizations in private institutions and development finance institutions as well, who are talking to us and looking into what we do. Next is basically private capital. What are they looking for? So I'd already touched on that a bit, but I think more specifically, they want SDG alignments through innovative solutions to reduce or enhance better use of water. This has a good impact on their corporate social responsibility strategy that is actually brought to the next level from just philanthropy to investing. And investing is actually producing this impact multiple. So it brings more energy into what they do by way of corporate social responsibility. They of course, after the impact multiple, is also an ESG booster because, in fact, they can develop partnerships and pilots which is something we promote between our investees and those corporates, so they can actually use these pilots to propel good practice down the supply chain and effectively try and mark up what good progress can be made by these and others across their operations. And the final point is actually important for them. It's to enhance marketing value by storytelling that brings scholars to their value proposition. I talked about this when I talked about the retailers and the consumer products through the retailing network we work with. And so the final point is actually helping social enterprises themselves. So those are enterprises with there's a massive financial gap at the bottom on the ground when you invest in emerging markets. So this is one of the first objective for the fund is to bring additionality there. As a missing middle player, we are happy to play a critical role in funding what's going to become larger by way of innovation. So I'll take the example of Jibo, a company that has developed now a network of 10,000 retailers across 7 countries of Africa, or 8 countries now, with about 210 production points, servicing like hundreds of thousands of people, and that's millions of liters of water per year. Now, the scale of impact that Jibo has generated of the last 10 years can actually be multiplied by 5 to 10 in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Or actually even in the next 5 years, we hope. So, the scale of that is massive, and it is actually disruptive in the existing modes and ways to distribute clean water. So it's important that we are able to help radical innovation early in the early stage, so that effectively it has a transformational effect later. There's a mix of capital and technical assistance, which is also important for them. Of course, they use the blended finance model to de-risk as well, and interested as well, of course, in connections with strategic partners that we are well placed to nurture and to promote in the first place within our coalition of corporate partners. So that was the part 2, I believe. Now, investing in a water gap is really what I want to talk about to expand, the picture on what is it that actually is going on in the marketplace. So to begin with, let's talk about, water and the place of water in the economy. It's largely invisible, but it's massive. When you look at the core here, 1 trillion of water treatments, that's the water business, plus another about 2 trillion in equipment. But it's actually 20 trillion in water handling economy. The important figure is water-dependent activities are as much as 86 trillion, and that's about 80%, in fact, that you will show in the next animation. 80% of the global economy, in fact, narrowly depends on water. So that raises 2 questions. One is, what is the value at risk here in relation with the notion of second question, how much do we need to boost water security? Those key notions I want to discuss next. So on the next page, you see a graph here given to us by the Global Water Intelligence in 2024, which is a projection of the risk that we are facing in the next decade, 2024, 2014, from the direct impacts of climate impacts in association with water. And that says that basically they expect a loss of 1.8 trillion in 10 years, which is of course significant. But the value at risk is bigger than that, because some of these events actually exceed the headroom, and we expect something like as much as 3 trillion, which is material, because about 3% of the global economy today, as it is today. And of course, if you want to erect a wall to protect all these the economy against these happenings, this is an important and material investment, which is also an opportunity for innovation and development. On the next page, I think we want to understand the pressure points. So first, food is at risk because of water scarcity. So the population in the world is a jump of 2x from billion in the 1990s, beginning to 1990s, to plus 10 billion in 2050. So that has obviously demography has an impact on the resources. The diet is changing as well, and the model is more agro-intensive, and the agro-intensive model as well has a direct impact on depleting resources, not the least water table and soils. Second, I think energy is wholly reliant on water. So there's a massive amount of water intensity in cooling for coal, for nuclear energy, and biofuels. And that has not been put into question in terms of how it is made, how much water you need. So basically, by and large, we'll still behave as if water was a free resource and abundant enough to do all that. But actually, we are hitting the ceiling now at the moment. And this is, of course, expected to grow massively in the next decades. The third impact is industrialization, where water intensity is massive. The single use of water is largely predominant. When you look at the water recycling in the average, in EU average, less than 1%, but it is 90% in Israel. And in countries where there's already water stress, is 30%, like in Spain, also part of the EU, but way above the average. So we expect more and more pressure, particularly due to the rise of data centers. Now we're building data centers at a pace of about one every 3 days, which is actually the largest stacking up of capital expenditures that we've seen even since the first industrial revolution. So that is super important, and actually constitute a cause for concern on the from the viewpoint of water depletion and water pressure. And of course, urbanization comes as well as another pressure point on water resources and biodiversity, also due to the water intensity in construction and the multiplicity of single-use water usage. So all these pressure points are leading to what we can see on the next page, pain points, in fact, on the water. So exercising pressure from not enough water to too much water, limited access to water, and water toxicity. All of these pain points create problems, but problems call solutions. So let's look at the solutions in a bit more detail, which is what actually constitutes an opportunity for us to invest into innovation. So, in fact, we'll see an issue with obsolescence and replacement, where there's, innovation coming up to replace the existing models. Next animation shows that, the existing infrastructure is going to be boosted by IoT. So we can see that on the ground already happening, with a reduction of capital expenditures, pressure, and also reduction of working capital requirement. For example, reduction of non-revenue water, all that is helping massively. Also gaps to be filled by mini infrastructure. So those are also another constituent in a wave of innovation. As well, we see private systems starting to exist. Sometimes it's just lightweight or asset-light innovation to increase water security, increase water efficiency, and contribute to something which would be called a water net zero, on a pattern similar to what we see with carbon. And that constitutes an opportunity to invest in what we see, i.e. emerging models that are still early in the curve of innovation, but set to replace obsolescent or maturing solutions that are around in place at the moment. So this is a good time to start investing in water, because basically we're moving off just water seen as utilities to water seen transversally, with a lot of systems and innovations in place to actually come in the value chains. So as a result, there's an unprecedented growth in water investment between now and 2034. You can see on that picture, which is a set of data from the Water Intelligence or the Global Water Institute. So there'll be an increase in public and private water and sanitation by a multiple of 2, irrigation and water rights by a multiple of 2, financial investment in the water sector by a multiple of 5. So you can see mobilization of capital becoming more important. But very interesting and strikingly here, what you see is increase in investments in water efficiency. Next animation, please. Two steps. In industry and agriculture. And so the multiple is staggering with 3,200. So what you see is innovation, driving a lot of investment in public-private partnership or in public sector classic utilities on the increase, but also driving a lot of private sector investment in the industry itself, in the electronics, in everything, energy, etc., to actually resolve the problem of too much water intensity, too high water security, and too high water footprint, to change everything around how we use water. And that's on the next page, please. So looking at innovation, we start with the first pain point: not enough water. The problems, we know them, are growing water stress, loss of yields, loss of biodiversity, lack of potable water, etc., etc. The solutions is more reuse and recycling, harvesting, water preservation, mini infrastructure, improved irrigation, desalination. So all that comes together, as a combination of different solutions, and/or these innovations acting in isolation. Okay, there's a number of there's a large amount of challenges around that we need to address still. Associated with energy intensity, byproducts that are polluting, like brine and desalination industry. There's a need for capital intensity, so there's a need for accelerating in the water sector, and of course, and by and large, and this is where we are playing, there's a need to actually bridge early stage innovation. Okay, to accelerate that, to gain scale and de-risk those investments. On the next page is about too much water, and of course this is kind of things we know already, with flash floods, insufficient surface, inadequate urban infrastructure, saturation, drainage, insufficient emergency response. The solutions are around adapting urban space, different equipment, some water retention in the good places, but also water evacuation in other places. This can be massively enabled by artificial intelligence to help prevention and crisis resolution in places. Now, there are challenges, of course, in that it's around the inadaptation of the existing urban model, and infrastructure, but also the modes of developing and structuring public-private partnerships actually adapted for large infrastructure, but much less for low-scale mini infra or micro infra. But that's needed as well if we want to answer to these and mobilize capital more actively. So on the limited access to water, the issue is really accessing water for large population on the planet, the fact that there's a growing demand on water resources, the fact that groundwater extraction is actually increasing with no substitution in places, because it will be digging deep, water cooling as well. Is on the increase as a result of actually more investment into energy, which is needed elsewhere, but obviously we need to change the systems by which. So the solutions around that are, again, mini infrastructure, the rise of, things like the water kiosk I mentioned with Jibo, other drinking water distribution alternatives as well. Increasing water recycling and circularity around water is something that has a potential application on a very large scale, and alternatives cooling systems. Okay. The challenges are, again, to accelerate innovation, to scale existing solutions, and attract more private capital. So that's what we do with the model. You do that more effectively with the blended finance model indeed as well, but we need to continue working up the supply chain to be able to keep working with the existing investments that we have that are scaling up fast, but also catch and help through basically by the force of example, but also by the force of what we do, attract further capital to be able to do that on a larger scale as well. And the final point is about water toxicity. Final but important problems, we know them are, a lot of wastewater is untreated, so it ends up in waterways with eutrophication and dead water as a result. So that's actually a massive problem in the loss of biodiversity. A lot of people are at risk here, above 3 billion people. The water leaks as well is massive, 43% in water pipes. That is an issue in intoxication of networks as well as a result. And in many parts of the world where water is actually high in temperature and high enough to develop bacteria, it is creating problems which makes the water pipe networks unreliable in terms of health and safety. 20% of the water ecosystems are under pressure. This is what I said about eutrophication already. So the solutions there are, close the infrastructure gap, which means basically the infrastructure are not covering, so the coverage is not enough. So we see a solution into mini infra as well with that. More waste water treatment systems that are perhaps less energy intensive, enabling to decarbonate the treatment of water as well. More recycling, particularly the treatment of toxic waste and sludge. That's kind of still an issue, and that is an area of innovation as well. And working on the existing infrastructure with resolving the gap in, for example, water leakage. So the challenges are the same. We need to boost productivity of existing systems, sustain innovation, enhance existing innovation, mobilize further capital. There's a decarbonation of the management of wastewater. So wastewater is actually one chief responsible for emission of greenhouse gases today. So the shift will take some time, but these innovations will come to the rescue effectively. So we see that there's going to be a massive push in the next decade on that, as exemplified and illustrated by the World Resource Institute prediction. So to finish, just go back a little bit on Water Unite Impact. Our investment thesis has 5 pillars. One is actually access to clean drinking water, because it's still a problem for large population, above 1 billion. 2 is closing the gap with hygiene and sanitation, because similarly, there's a massive gap here in the provision of services and good standards that doesn't reach everybody, and there's still a gap in excess of 1 billion here to do. Wastewater circularity as a solution to, or set of solutions to manage wastewater and pollution. Also associated with that plastics, plastics and solid waste circularity, to actually remove all these toxics and pollutants out of the water system and out of the waterways. And finally, water preservation, which is what Mira, who's going to talk next, is working on with, it's a good example of applying, artificial intelligence to irrigation. And in their case, they've managed to reduce water by a margin, by a factor of 20 or 30%, 20 to 30% in the experiments they've done, helping farmers reduce the amount of water they use and simply basically make savings on water. So this is Amira and CBEX. Now, Jibo is our investment working in the access to clean water. I already mentioned that. Sanivation is one of the companies actively working on plugging the infrastructure gap in Kenya in association with wastewater and toilets. GRI is also active in their case, they work in Southeast Asia. They work on, but increasingly as well as elsewhere in Africa. They work with large corporates to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions, particularly methane coming out of wastewater. They transform wastewater into biogas. So actually they turn something that is a cost center into a profit center, but also generate energy out of the organic content of water, generate carbon offsets as well. So it's a win-win solution for everybody. In the plastics, we've got Mr. Green in Africa. That's one of the most advanced company in recycling plastics in Africa. Or they operate a network of waste pickers with a very clean solution where waste pickers are put actually into formal employment, and then they build a circular economy on recycling plastics, working with large FMCGs like Unilever, like others, Colgate, etc. In order to produce them with recycled plastics and contribute to the pledge to reduce virgin plastic by 50% by 2035. And the next investment we have in plastics is a company that does bioplastics using agricultural residues to replace single-use plastics in the food and drink industry. They work currently with the largest brewing companies in the world, like Unilever, like Diageo, like Ebbie and Bev, like Olsen Moores in the US, but also a host of large number of smaller, independent brewers that they service with products that are actually bioplastics, but replacing single-use plastics. So by the same, having an effect on reducing the amount of waste going out into the oceans. And finally, last but not least, CBEX is almost a tee off for you, Amira, to continue the discussion, but you'll discover what CBEX does. It's actually very, very good. So to finish, what I want to say, I think we have a last box coming in. Yes, this fund is now 20 million committed. 50% of that is blended finance source. We are in a process of raising another 10 million in 2025, almost there. And to date, it's like 6 investments. So it's tiny because we've actually deployed like small tickets below around 500,000 per investments. So that's 2.2 million deployed, but it actually represents a much larger ticket size, and it does represent also another 12 million to go in the same portfolio, potentially plus new investments. We'll be doing at least another 6 investments in the next year and a half to complete the portfolio. We target relatively high MOIC above the 3x, which equates to a 16% annualized return. That's what we want to do, because the companies that thanks to the blended finance model, obviously, but also the companies we invest into have a very large growth multiple. We can expect them to grow by a factor of 5 to 10 in the next decade and before that. So we think that it is safe to go on a regular venture capital target for this, because these companies, some will exceed the 3x, some others will do. So that was the presentation of what we do. I'm happy to take your questions. Perhaps we can do that at the back end of the presentation. But thank you very much for your attention now.
Thank you, Cyrille. Thank you, Cyrille, to remind us that one of the greatest barriers to water innovation is access to capital, and that philanthropy alone cannot meet the challenge, and neither can traditional investment. So that's why blended finance and your deep understanding of the market, of the water market, is very interesting for everyone. So innovation is crucial in securing our water future. So entrepreneurs like Amira are on the ground, are developing technologies so that improve efficiency and I'm delighted, Amira, that if you can explain to us what are you doing at CBEX for the future?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gael. Thank you, everyone. So good morning and good afternoon to all of you joining us today. It's truly an honor to be part of this important conversation on securing our water future. My name is Amira Chanour, so I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of CBEX. CBEX is an agri-tech company dedicated to AI-powered smart farming solutions. At CBEX, our mission is simple and yet urgent. So help farmers use water efficiently, increase productivity, and build resilience in agriculture. With water scarcity and climate change threatening global food security, we need today's scalable, cost-effective, and data-driven solutions, and that's exactly what we are doing and building at CBEX. Next, please, Alexandra. As has been mentioned by other speakers today, like by 2050, we are expecting to reach 2 billion more people on this planet. And right now we have like 800 million who are already undernourished. The big question here is how we can scale food production without exhausting our water resources. So agriculture already consumes 70% of global fresh water, as you know, and most of it is wasted due to inefficiencies. Next slide. When we talk about global food security, the real issue isn't just about producing more, it's about producing smarter. This is what we think and what we believe in it. The traditional way of farming cannot keep up with the climate change, with water scarcity, and the increasing of the food demand. Think about how most farmers make decisions today. They rely on fixed schedules, manual estimates, and guesswork. Should I irrigate today? Should I apply more fertilizer? Should I use pesticides or no? These decisions are often based on intuition, no data, or based on their experience. It's leading to inefficiencies, waste, and lower profitability. And the reality in here is that inefficiency in farming practices, and especially in water use, can cause up to 50% reduction in yield and income. And while precision farming solutions exist, they often require expensive sensors, making them difficult to scale, especially for smallholder farmers. Water is too valuable to be wasted. So how do we change this reality? So at CBEX, we asked ourselves how we can give farmers the power of precision farming without requiring expensive infrastructure, how we can make it like inclusive to all type of farmers, whether they are small, medium, or big farms. And the answer is our solution today, an AI-driven, sensorless solution that delivers real-time recommendation on irrigation. What makes our approach is different. So first, it's no hardware required, so 100% software-based intelligence. A real validated impact, as you see here, is like independently assessed in France and Tunisia today, and we are actually growing this impact to reach 3 countries in the market this year in Europe and Africa and Middle East, up to 40% water saving, while also optimizing other inputs like fertilizer and treatments somehow like indirectly. At CBEX, we've proven that this is work. And our AI is continuously analyzing weather, soil conditions, crop models, and we use satellite imagery somehow to calculate the impact that we are communicating. So we are eliminating guesswork and helping farmers making better decisions or much more founded decision every day. Next slide, please. So also what make us unique is the way our AI delivers intelligence. So we're creating what we call digital twin of the farm. So a dynamic AI model that simulates the real world condition by integrating soil, plant, and weather data. We do have also massive plant database. We can say like it's the biggest actually in terms of solutions in agtech. So continuously updating our data from 50 plus species and more than 200 plus crop varieties. Our latest actually innovation that we've been released this year is Magonia, which is our AI assistant. It's multilingual conversational AI that translates complex agronomic insights into simple, actionable advice in over 100 languages and dialects, and contextualized data aggregator, which generates valuable insights to agribusinesses, cooperatives, and policymakers. And we do have seamless integration that work with existing farm management systems, so making AI-driven farming accessible and scalable. The beauty of this this approach is that farmers don't need to be experts or tech savvy, so our AI does the heavy lifting for them. Next slide. CBEC started with sensorless irrigation optimization, and we continue improving this axe, and we will continue working on water, but we quickly realized that we can scale what we do to cover other aspects of the crop production, and now we are expanding to cover fertilization and plant protection in 360 solutions for very strategic crops that we are targeting. So this is the future of farming, where AI enables farmers to optimize every decision in real time. Next slide. At CBEX, actually, you see here the numbers. So our mission is not just about developing technology, it's about delivering real impact at scale. So, and these numbers tell the story of growing reach. So we have over 1,000 subscribers, farmers, agribusinesses who actively use our platform to optimize their irrigation and water management. We have successfully managed more than 3,500 production cycles, ensuring efficient water use and improved crop outcomes. 90% of the cases that we've been studying, we've been generating water saving and yield boost. So our technology is trusted by over 400 customers, including farmers, cooperatives, agribusinesses across multiple regions. And our system has processed more than 100,000 satellite imagery, leveraging AI to provide accurate insights for smarter data-driven farming decisions. Next slide. So, while we all recognize the urgency of water conservation, the reality is that scaling AI-driven solution agriculture comes with its own set of challenges. So reaching these numbers is already not easy. It hasn't been easy for us. So I will talk about some of the key barriers we faced in making this transition successful. So first of all, data adoption and challenges. Agriculture, unlike other industries, still struggle with reliable and scalable data. So it's one of the most data-scarce industries, which makes AI model development more complex. But even when we have the right technology, farmers often need real-world proof before trusting and adopting a new solution. So it's not enough to show results from test lab. What really convinced them is seeing it work on peers' farms. Similarly, for agribusinesses, need validation across multiple farms before they integrate a new solution at scale. Next slide. The second, and has been also discussed by Cyrille, which is the funding gaps in water tech. So on the investment side, agri-tech, especially water tech, doesn't operate like fintech, health tech, e-commerce, where results can be measured instantly. In agriculture, impact takes seasons, not days. That means we need patient capital, funding that understands the time it takes to prove and scale the solution. But many investors in this scene of investment hesitate because they want fast returns, while in reality, proving water savings, at least, and efficiency gains requires longer validation cycles. Why this matters? So if we want truly to overcome these barriers, we need to create an ecosystem of trust where farmers, investors, and policymakers work together to drive adoption at scale. It's not just about having the right technology, it's about ensuring the right support system in place to make adoption seamless and rewarding to everyone involved in the ecosystem. Next slide. So actually, CBEX doesn't just work with farmers. In our strategy, we act across the entire agri-value chain. So we accelerate the impact at multiple levels. So the agribusinesses like seed producers today integrate our platform to empower their farmers to grow high quality, more resilient seeds. They also allows them to collect large-scale performance data to breed drought-resistant and low water-consuming seeds. Agri-food processors and cooperatives use CBEX to optimize water use across the supply chains, ensuring sustainable farming at scale, but also securing their productivity in the harvest in terms of quality and in terms of quantity. And their role in here is critical in scaling the water tech solution, driving industry-wide adoptions. So water saving innovation only scale when we have the agriculture and technology and finance align. So this is and I was talking about this as part of the partnership level that we do, and also I'm addressing it also to Water Unite as part of our investor panel. So Water Unite is more than just an investor, and you've seen in the presentation of Cyrille, it's a true impact-driven partner that understands the complexity of water challenges and actively supports startups that drive meaningful changes in this place. They've been built a strong network and deep expertise in the water-related innovation, making them more than just financial bakers, but they are what we call in our ecosystem smart money. So they believed in CBEC's mission from the start, and they supported us from the beginning, and their support goes beyond funding. They provide strategic guidance, they understand the specific challenges of our industry, and most importantly, they open doors, and especially in terms of the strategy that we are taking in terms of go-to-market, etc., by connecting us with the right people, the right markets, and the right opportunities. For us, this is just valuable as capital. So it's very important when we've been choosing the investors for the last round, to have like investors like Water Unite in the panel. So it saves us like time, accelerate our scaling efforts, and especially strengthens our impact. Next slide. So here I'm addressing like actually this slide mainly for the audience who are here. So if we want to make a real impact and scale AI-driven agriculture, we need the right support ecosystem. Technology alone is not enough. So it takes collaboration across different sectors to make adoption widespread and sustainable. Why? Because first, we need investment and an AI-driven sustainable solution. Water scarcity is an urgent crisis, and we must accelerate the adoption of precision agriculture in water-scarce regions. Smart investment in AI-driven farming are not just about growth, they are about long-term resilience. Second, partnerships are key. No single company or organization can solve the challenge alone. We need stronger collaboration between agri-tech startups, impact investors, policymakers to remove barriers to adoptions and ensure technology reaches the farmers who need it the most, especially smallholder farmers in the developed regions. And finally, knowledge sharing is critical. So farmers today don't just need access to technology, they need trust in it. By working together to provide training, real-world case studies, and peer learning, we can help them see the true value of data-driven agriculture and make AI adoption seamless. The future of agriculture is data-driven. By scaling edge requires all of us, investors, innovators, policymakers, working together. The question that I've been asking is like, how do we accelerate the change today? The answer is, the more we collaborate, the faster we scale. I will end with the last slide, which is the closing slide. So you remember that I said water is too valuable to be wasted. Yet, while we have made massive progress in tackling and reducing carbon footprint, it has been mentioned water footprints by Cyrille and Satya, are still largely overlooked. We believe it's time to change that. WaterScore is our initiative to bring water footprint measurement to the forefront, just like the carbon footprint. So we know that it's going to take decades, but we need to start somehow. It's about scoring, benchmarking, and incentivizing better water management in agriculture. It's about creating a clear, measurable way for business policymakers and farmers to take responsibility for their water impact. And most importantly, it's about encouraging action. So because what gets measured gets managed. So I invite all the investors, agribusinesses, policymakers in here, and innovators to join us, whether investing in us or in supporting us in shaping a world where water efficiency is not just a choice, but we want to make it a standard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amira. It's very inspiring. So what's an inspiring discussion today? We've seen that securing our water future requires collaboration, smart financing, and bold innovation, thanks to CBEX. I think we must take action, and I encourage all of you to connect with our speakers to explore funding opportunities, of course. now we can have a Q&A session. So do we have any question right now? So it's time for you guys if you want to send us your questions.
There is a question for Cyrille.
Okay, so there's a question for Cyrille. Cyrille, what advice would you give on establishing clear governance in projects that use blended finance, especially when multiple actors are involved, e.g. municipalities, water operators, and businesses?
Yeah, governance, is key, but when you have to manage multiple sources of capital, because people come with a different agenda, and they would expect maybe a different output, etc. So is to make clear from the start where the synergy is and what's going to be the interplay between them. Typically, when what we see is that non-profit investors do not have a financial agenda, but they have an impact agenda, and the private investors have both, right? So we need to make sure that what they have in common is actually well managed, as expectations agreed, etc. So the way we've developed that ourselves is using SDGs, because SDGs is widely used in the corporate world. And it is also a good way to measure impacts. So prior to this, in other funds as impact investors, we were users of IRIS metric, which is promoted by the Global Impact Investing Network, which is fairly good, but it doesn't really go into the corporate world. So it's important to make sure that these guys speak the same language. But on the other hand, conversely, the SDGs are known to everybody. Okay, so that's one thing. So same output, clear vision, alignment on the same values, the same expectations, and the same ambitions. Then is to kind of be clear how the money is going to be used, who's going to do what in the waterfall. So waterfall is basically the end distribution of things. How it's going to be organized. Like I explained in my expose, that we have corporates giving money to across a number of years that actually exceeds the investment or deployment period of a private equity fund, which usually is in the first half of the lifetime of the fund, and so if you want to if you do that, you need to make sort of the donors, the private donors, the donors, in our case the corporates, to make them clear that money is not going to be mobilized on a par with the rest of the money, but can be used elsewhere, and that has a catalytic effect, which is also what they're looking for. But that needs to be explicit at the beginning. So I think it's about setting the rules at the beginning, creating a roadmap with the right signpostings, creating the expectations, have the right rules, etc. So putting that together is essential, in my view, in creating that governance, as opposed to kind of things dropping in different places at different time where people maybe get confused as a result.
Thanks, Cyrille. I think we have another question, which is maybe for you again. They would like to know what stage of a startup is targeted, and does it include ideation stage?
Okay, good question. Thank you very much for this. We go early stage because we are additionality investors, right? So it does, and what I said earlier is that the investable pool is early stage, right? So for example, Amira, we talked in 2022, I think, for an investment that took place at the end of 2023. So there's a relatively long period of time. At this stage, though, CBEX have raised seed funding from a sovereign fund, so it's quite remarkable in the Middle East. And so it was not the first ticket, okay? So going into the ideation stage is perhaps a bit too challenging for us because, let me explain why, is that we want to achieve good returns for private investors. Why? Because we want these people to actually grow their pool of investment for impact, and to and we want impact investing at large to grow as an asset class, which is what is happening already. Asset by investing is 1.5 trillion according to the latest count by the Global Impact Investing Network. So that comes as a result of actually servicing the expectations of private investors, but the blended finance can go early. Okay, so it's a bit of a paradox. So if we use blended finance part to grant investments really early stage, then we can do a suite of investment action where we come relatively early, which is risky, but not too risky for private investors that can actually come in later in the next round, etc. Right? But ideation stage still a bit early for us. So I think we stop short of that. We go when there is a proof of concept. We want to see a proof of concept. Break-even is not a criteria, but proof of concept is one. And it means actually a commercial one. Actually, you can see the clients, you can see the solution working. It's actually vetted and validated by the client. So if you're early stage, at the ideation stage, that should be your horizon. Develop something that's proof of concept, that's clients recognized, you have the commercial fingerprint on it, and then we can talk.
Okay, thank you, Cyrille. I think there's no more question right now. So before we close, I want to extend a special thank you to the top tier impact community for your presence today across 4 continents. So that's great. I think together we can turn today's insight into meaningful action. So don't hesitate to reach our speaker.
Okay, I think you have more questions, perhaps.
Someone raised one hand. So
Good. It's coming together. Yes. Oh.
Alors, okay. So last question. So from Grace. She's an investment officer at Kenya Innovative Finance. What are the instruments of investment by Water Unite?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks, Grace. We should talk more beyond this seminar already. But we have actually a large toolbox. Typically, the instrument to invest into company early stage is equity, because equity is kind of by far the best, the best investment. But we have, of course, convertible notes. We have pref shares. We typically across what we've done a combination of these. But more early stage, we do also convertible grants with the ability to come up with to companies with grants. Is what I said earlier about the early stage question. We like convertible or convertibility in grants, whatever it means, because it is a way to create some tension for entrepreneurs and make sure that we are we have a long-term perspective, and they do have an incentive as well. So there's a large array of possibility which is needed for what we do. But happy to take this offline if you want to discuss more.
Okay. I think no, there's no more question. Attends, il y a un new message. Non, c'est pas une question ça. Okay, so I think there's no more question, and no, there's again a question. This time to Amira. Sorry, how did you manage to do the POC? Your proof of concept.
What was the question, Gaëlle?
How did you manage to do the proof of concept? Your proof of concept.
How did we manage to to do our proof of concept.
Yes.
Okay, I see the question. So personal fund, okay, so in terms of funding, I think she's asking about that. How did we finance the first steps to reach the POC? So it was like first personal funding. So we've been like investing from our own cash, the founders, in order to be able to finance the first baby steps that we've been working on. We've reached also pre-seed funds, so as Cyrille Antignac mentioned it. When we reached, what we call an MVP, a minimum viable product that is working. We tested it in some farms in Tunisia with farmers who also trusted the technology. They wanted to leverage their business. We started also showing some results. This is what I said from the beginning. Is like it's all about showing the impact. So also investors and farmers could follow and could adapt the technology. And once we had first impact or results impact, so we've been reaching investors to raise the first round. It was like from the sovereign fund, which is called Oman Technology Fund in Sultanate Oman, and then we started working more on the technology and scaling it across the countries that we are targeting, and raise the second fund. So it was almost the beginning by financing this by our own money as founders, family, and beloved ones. Yeah, all supporting the business.
Yes, the love money.
Yeah, I love money, exactly.
Love money. Okay, so I think there's no more question right now. So on behalf of Water Unite and Top Tier Impact and all our partners today, thank you for joining us, and let's continue to innovate, finance, and collaborate to secure our water future. So I hope to see you soon.